Hey YouTube land, Tycondrius here doing another action figure review. Now today we're looking at not one, not two, but four figures from Mattel's Jurassic Park line. And what these are is these are 93 classic. So I'm going to go through the boxes quickly. Now all the figures have been opened and taken out, so they're not in the boxes as they appear, but they do. I will go through the boxes quickly so you can have a look-see. So the first one, which is one of the larger of the boxes, which is the Track and Explore vehicle set. So this is a complete open box with the exception of two accessories behind this plastic container, but everything that you get, the vehicle, the dinosaur, and the weapons are all visible to see. So I flip it around. You can see this comes with a Scutosaurus. It comes with a Jurassic Park inspired Jeep. Now we'll get into the vehicles and Jeep and stuff in a minute when I bring them out, but you can see other figures in the wave. So there is only four so far. There is only four sets for this wave, as in four sets that pay homage to the original. So you got the T-Rex set, Ian Malcom set, and the Grant set, and this Jeep set. So with the exception of the T-Rex set, everything else I had to get sourced from a buddy of mine in the States. So that's why it took so long. I had the T-Rex for ages, but I was waiting on these to arrive so I could do all of them together. And a shout out to my buddy Frank Nash for picking these up for me. He managed to find them all at Target. I believe they were Target exclusives. So the Rex set is actually an exclusive to Smith's toy store, which is hilarious because they never bothered with the rest of the figures in this wave. Maybe they didn't think they would sell, but they got in another T-Rex. They have several T-Rexes, but other than that, the packaging pays homage to the original lineup of figures and the old Kenner line. So this is the Rex set. The box is quite big, so I can't really fit it in, but you have the original Jurassic Park logo. It doesn't go with Jurassic World on it. It's a electronic real feel Tyrannosaurus Rex. And if I flip around the back of the box, again, it showcases all the stuff. Now, the difference with this one and the other sets is this shows them all in multiple languages, whereas the American versions, I believe, just has a couple of languages. This shows multiple languages, more than the American or the US release. In fact, if I turn my camera there, you can see all the multiple thing about the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the multiple names of it, and Realismo Electronico, and all the different things. These still do have the app feature that when you pull up the DNA tag on the specific dinosaur, it does actually scan, which is, again, you can even see they did showcase the other figures in this wave on the European version of this set, but again, for some reason Smith opted out of getting the other sets, or at least here in Ireland they opted out. They might be available in the European versions of Smith's toys, I don't know why. But this is the box for the T-Rex. It is quite massive. It is quite a big figure, as I knock over other boxes. Here is the Alan Grant set. So once I get all the boxes out of the way, I'll take a brief pause and set up all the figures, and then we'll go through the figures. So here is the Jurassic Park. So you can see it's JP30. It is celebrating 30 years of Jurassic Park. If it's hard to believe that the original Jurassic Park film is 30 years ago. It was released in 1993 when the figure line came out, which is what these are doing a homage to. This is the Tactical Claw Pack. You get Dr. Alan Grant, you get a Gallimimus, you get a juvenile or small velociraptor, and then you get a whole bunch of gear for Grant and a bit of capture gear for the Gallimimus, which is pretty cool. So again, it showcases all the figures, and then it has figures may not stand as shown, launches, capture gear included, Grant, Velociraptor, and Gallimimus. The great thing about these is they're paying a homage more to the original Kenner line figures than they are to the movie inspired figures. But we'll do a showcase of all the figures together that I have of specific, or the various characters. So this is the Dr. Ian Malcom Glider Escape Pack, and he comes in the same box packaging. You can see they're paying homage to the original. This is the way the original ones used to look, with the red and kind of red to yellow transitioning with the black jungle motif. And you get a Triceratops, the Dilophosaur, you get Ian Malcom, and you get, again, gear for Malcom and capture gear for the Dilophosaur. You can get a slight capture gear for the Triceratops, which is kind of hilarious, but we'll get into that in a minute. So bear with me a moment, we'll get set up and we'll get cracking on the figures and the dinosaurs. And here we go with everything all set up. So it looks like a bit of a cluttered mess at the moment, but what we'll do is we'll go through some of the smaller stuff first, and then we'll leave the biggest to last. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Rex out of the way first, and we'll go through the figure packs, which is the Grant and Malcolm figure pack. I'm just going to roll that out of the way, and then we'll go through the slightly larger sets. So we'll start off with Malcolm and his glider set. So we're going to push the Gallimimus just out over here for the time being, Grant and the Velociraptor, and then we'll just take away Grant's extra gear, and we'll bring in the Dilophosaur that comes with this set, which is a really nice sculpt. So he has the capture gear on. Now the capture gear is designed to go on only one way, because the way the legs are designed, the chains will only fit on it the one way. You see it's molded in a specific direction, so the front left foot is further up, so the front chain goes to that, back chain goes to that. You also have a head box. The head box is a little bit tricky to get on and off. I wouldn't recommend doing it too many times, because you might rub some of this paint off, but it has an articulating jaw, which is quite nice. It does have articulating legs, but if you want it to be in that capture gear pose, you really have to have it in the neutral position, and then the arms do have a swivel. Now, out of the two dinosaurs, from the larger dinosaurs in the smaller sets, this one is a little bit less articulated. When I get to the Gallimimus, you'll see that it has a little bit more in the articulation range of things, but this one, for actual points of articulation, they have about the same. So you got 1, 2, 3 for the tail, 4, 5, and then a jaw, so 6 points for them in total, but it is quite nicely done. And one big difference between this and nearly every other Dilophosaur that Mattel has released, with the exception of the Hammond collection, is this is kind of the standard-ish one. All of them have this frill, which is molded on and it's on a hinge, whereas this one, because it has to have the capture gear head piece on, it has the frill is just slightly molded onto the neck, so it doesn't come with an alternate frill for you to put on. But I would imagine, let me just hop out here for 2 seconds and bring in, I do actually have the Hammond collection version of the Dilophosaur. See if that fits. Probably not. I think it's actually upside down. I think it's supposed to go that way. But you could, if you have the Hammond collection one and you wanted it to have a frill, you could kind of get away with it. But unfortunately, the Hammond collection one is so hard to get for some reason. Hopefully Mattel will do a reissue of it. But I managed to get mine from Big Bad Toy Store when they had them, and they haven't had them in stock. It's one of the few Hammond collection dinosaurs that hasn't been restocked or hasn't had a kind of second run. Again, with the Dinosaur DNA app thing, you have it in this chest, just like on the standard ones. I believe this is the one with the Nedry chase set, if I remember correctly. Or it's the one with the old... it's not, not old... I was going to say old Laura Dern, but it's not. It's the one, I think, that came with... What's her name? Claire Daring. I think it's from that set. There was kind of a couple of 2-pack sets. I'm not sure which one that version came with. But other than that, it is quite a different sculpt to the original. It's actually a smaller, slightly smaller in proportions, but it is really nicely done. Again, you get the little tiny trike, baby Triceratops. It has these evil blacked out eyes for some reason, but I think that it's paying homage to the small minifigure that came with the original Ellie Sattler Kenner figure, because she came with a small baby trike, where the Dennis Nedry figure came with a small baby Dilophosaur. There was a two Dilophosaurs in the original line, so there was that small baby one. There was a electronic one, and then there was like a water squirting one. This is based off the water squirting version. So although they went with a more neon yellow for the striping on it, whereas if I remember correctly, the original one had kind of more white to it. At least my one had. I don't know where it is. I thought I'd kept all my old Kenner dinosaurs, but I can only find a handful, and the Dilophosaur isn't one of them. So you get Ian Malcom. Now his backpack isn't on him when you get him, and there is some assembly required. I'm not sure if these are designed to pop back out. Oh, there. So when you get it, you get the main backpack piece, and just be careful. There's only one of these side straps that are designed to be opened, and that is the left hand side. The other one, it may look like it's exactly the same, but it's actually glued in place, so if you force it, you could snap the peg on it, so just be careful. There is also a peg for the figure's backpack, or the figure's back. So these wings only go in one way, so there's a little T section on this one that only fits in this way, and then there's not on the opposite one, and then that just snaps into place, or just clicks into place. What's interesting is it looks like the backpack piece has handles on it, and I think it's supposed to design that these are supposed to be the way you plug them in and out, is that these are supposed to be embedded into the backpack and they spring out, sort of like a spring-loaded gimmick, but it doesn't actually have it, because it even looks like the top here would have been like a button press for you to spring open the backpack. I don't even remember if there was a Ian Malcom figure that had a spring-loaded backpack. I only remember having the original Ian Malcom, or no, I didn't even have the original Ian Malcom, sorry, and I don't think he came with a spring-loaded backpack. I thought he came with some sort of launcher, like a missile launcher, kind of similar to what he actually comes with this big green missile in it. So it's a nice segue to get onto that. Where's the button? It's there. So the button for this is actually nicely well hidden. I thought it was the scope, but it's not. It's the scope on Grant's one is the one that launches it, but not on this. So you have this missile. It's a big green translucent missile. I think it's supposed to be like a toxin dart or some sort of, tranquilizer dart. Plugs in. It's ridiculously oversized for what it is, which is exactly the way the launchers on some of the original figures were. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my original Kenner figures to go with to show him, but he does hold it, but it's just really big, and his arm will flop down and he looks ridiculous with it. So these will probably go into like a spare bags part, so I just don't lose them. But all in all, he's quite a good figure. So what we'll do is we'll bring out a couple of iterations of Ian Malcom here. So here is the original Legacy. Now all the figures in these sets are based on the Legacy collection, so they don't have the extra articulation that the Hammond collection has. But we can see here that Malcom is pretty much a complete resculpt, even down to the boots. He's actually wearing actual boots as opposed to those kind of dress shoes that he had in the first version. His arms are different, maybe with the exception of the upper arm, but I think that's even different as well. You see he has fingerless gloves on, and they're actually sculpted. They're not just, they didn't just cut corners and paint half gloves on the actual hands. The head sculpt, it looks different. The actual original one looks a bit more squished, whereas this one has a more thinner face. Maybe with the exception of the sunglasses, or the glasses he's wearing, they could be the same part, but everything else is different from what I can see. Even the belt waist piece kind of looks different. He looks like he's kind of supposed to be wearing more kind of rugged jeans or dark jeans. And he still has his shirt, but it's a different style of shirt. He even has like an undershirt on the main shirt, which is quite nice. But he's quite cool. Just a peg hole. He does retain the same articulation as the other Legacy figures. So he has arms and swing, rotate all the way around, single joint elbow. Head is on a ball joint. They only have a waist swivel. Kick forward, single jointed knee with a swivel, and then nothing in the ankle or wrists. And then they have the 2 peg holes. He has a peg hole in the back. If I recall, Grant doesn't. So there is that. In fact, the original figure doesn't have the peg hole in the back. So I think he is the only one that glider can go to. I don't even think the mercenary guys, yeah, the mercenary guys don't have the peg holes on the back either. And I'm pretty sure Grant doesn't. So let me just grab Grant in here for a second and pop off his backpack. Yeah, Grant does not have a peg hole on the back. He does have removable body armor, which we'll get into in a second. But he is different. So for a scale, because I should really do that, he stands around 4 inches. And then if I bring into the Dilophosaur stands just around 3 because it's a smaller figure. And because I have them handy and they're next to me, bring in the other iterations of Ian Malcom that I have, ranging from other Legacy to Hammond Collection to Old Legacy, or Jurassic World Dominion, which is old Ian Malcom. So you can see there's 4 main figures of Ian Malcom that have been released from Mattel. Now unfortunately I can't do the same thing for Grant. I'm missing my Hammond Collection Park version. I do have a different version to showcase him, but he is pretty much the same thing. So we'll just get Ian. I'm going to take the other Ians out of the way. Get Ian to stand up here in the background. And take his gear out of the way while we bring in Grant. So I'm going to take his gear off that he comes with, that you can attach onto him. I believe these pieces are all unique to him. I don't think any other figure has had this. I know there's been body armor and stuff for different figures. The only other exception of body armor is the bike set that I remember. There was like one of the, what's his name? Chris Pratt's character, Owen Grady. One of the Owen Grady figures had a body armor piece, but it's not the same as this. It just clips on. If I remember correctly, it doesn't actually hook on. It just clips over the body, or just like slide down on top of the body. This one actually has a bit more to it. So this is a quite nicely sculpted body armor. With this one is actually interesting because you can, or at least should in theory be able to, put it on any of the other figures because he doesn't have a peg hole like the Ian Malcom. So you can actually have armored up Grant for regular missions. But we'll get into that. We'll pop him over the side. We'll just pop that over here. So he comes with a pair of binoculars. The reason he comes with binoculars is because the original figure, I'm hoping I'm thinking of this correctly because I'm not sure where my original one is. He actually had molded on binoculars that were kind of molded onto his chest, as far if I recall. He was still retaining this blue, dark blue, almost ultramarine blue top, and he did have green leggings. Well, actually I think he had slightly more grayish leggings, but the green looks quite nice. So here is the Grant figure. Here is the original Legacy Grant figure. You can see there is quite a bit of difference. Even the head sculpts are quite different. In fact, I much prefer the head sculpt on this. I think it's one of the closest head sculpts to Grant we've gotten. Just bring it in a bit closer. It even looks better than the Hammond Collection version of Grant. This is the, there's a bit of dirt on him. Yeah. This is the, which version of it? It's the Jurassic Park 3 Hammond Collection. As I said, I don't have my Legacy, or no, Hammond Collection version of Jurassic Park 1. I do have the Jurassic Park 3 one. Again, he retains all the same articulation as the Malcom figure. And he comes with some ridiculous oversized launchers as well as dinosaurs. We'll get into his dinosaurs in a second. So he comes with this weird grappling thing. It doesn't actually launch, it just slides forward on a rail, and I think it's supposed to be like a capture claw. It's kind of springy. Again, it's going to go into a big pile of just parts for spare, not spare parts, but just to keep on hand, so I have all the parts of them, but they probably will never get to see the light of day. Then he comes with a grappling hook for some reason, which fires out. It's a really nicely done grappling hook. There's actually an elastic spring here, and it only goes into one way, but it does fire quite well. We'll just use old GP3 Grand as a target practice, but it does fire quite nicely. And then you just fire the poor innocent dino, and then it does hook onto stuff. It does have a good bit of length on the string. It does only go in the one way onto the launcher as well, and as I said, it's actually just behind here on the sight part is the launch. You can see the elastic band here that hold it and fires. It's quite a nicely designed piece. Again, different to what he originally came with. I do remember my original Grant, and he came with a net launcher, which was a huge backpack piece that used to go over his backpack, and the launcher would fling it forward, and there was a net that would jump over or fall over dinosaurs, and it was supposed to capture them that way. But other than that, they're not too bad. Now, I will stress that this could be a very long review, actually. I know I'm doing it halfway through the review, but we'll try and get through everything as quickly as possible. So the Gallimimus, as far as I'm aware, I think this is a unique sculpt, just like the Dilophosaur. I could be wrong. There is a few Gallimimus figures that I don't have. Mostly I think it's the battle damaged, and there was a legacy version of the Gallimimus. I don't have any of those. The only ones I actually ever got were these ones. And these are the old attack pack ones. Before they introduced this scan, they had the scan on the bottom of the foot. So this also retains the scanning mechanism for the DNA scanner. You can see the difference in sculpting. Their arms are way longer because they're not as folded up. Legs are in a more neutral position, so it's taller. Body shape still retains the same kind of shape. The heads are somewhat similar. It's just the neck on this one is more elongated as opposed to being in a neutral position. But this is based off the old original 90s one, which is quite nice. And what I meant about the extra articulation is this guy has a head joint with a rotation, where a neck joint with the rotation, where the Dilophosaur doesn't. He doesn't have opening mouth like the Dilophosaur, but he also, or she, has arms that fold out that and then can rotate all the way around. So there's actually a hinge here on the shoulder and similar on the hip. So where the Dilophosaur just had straight swivels, this actually has a bit more to it. So it is quite nicely done. You have the little teeny baby Velociraptor, which is just in green with a couple of paint apps. A nice green with yellow eyes and the brownish on it, which is quite nice. And overall, there's a pretty good set. So with that said, we'll move quickly onto the Jeep. So I'm going to move stuff out of the way, most notably the big stuff. Oh, I think I forgot one thing. The capture gear stuff for the baby Triceratops, it just fits over it and has a handle, so any of the figures can actually hold onto it and run away with it, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way and try not lose it. Bear with me a moment. And we will get on to the tracker set. What was it called again? The Jeep set, which is... I can't remember the name of it. I think it's the Jungle Tracker. So we will bring these out of the way. So the missile on this is in the box behind the packaging, or behind the plastic packaging, as is this there's a snare. The snare thing, it has multiple areas. So as you can see, it was sitting there on the side. It actually can fit in here. It looks like an antenna when you have it up here. It looks kind of ridiculous because it has the snare piece on it, but it looks like an antenna. Apparently, you're supposed to be able to rotate this gun thing to the side for some reason. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. It shows it in the options that you can rotate the gun Again, I have no idea why you would want to do that, but it is an option there. What's interesting as well, you can actually take the whole gun out if you don't want it on the back, and it has this flip up armor piece, which is pretty cool, and has 4 open doors. So it has doors on both sides that open up, and the reason it's in this deco and not the original deco is because it's based off a unreleased version. If I close this up, bring it in, an unreleased version of this. So Kenner did do a version of the Ford Explorer, but it was a gimmick laden version, so it had the launcher stuff, it had a whole bunch of gimmicks going for it, for the figure line, the original figure line. But they originally, for Series 2, there was a Series 2 planned version of the Explorer, and it would have had this kind of armor piece on it. I think it had this deco going for it, and it was basically a slight retooled, slightly decoed version of the Explorer. In fact, this one is actually even slightly different from the original release. If you look at the fronts, you can see the grille on this is open. You have a different is it cattle bar, or the main body is pretty much the same all the way to the back, with the exception of here, where the extra piece there at the back is. It's been cut back and opened and given this launcher thing, but it still retains a lot of the same details. So if I flip it around, you even have a Jurassic Park logo in the inside of here, which is kind of cool. The seats and interior look very similar. In fact, just looking at them, you see the seats are still the same kind of padding. You can see them clearer in this because they're the bright cream colored ones. The seats are exactly the same. They're just done in a darker gray. I'm not sure if that's coming across on camera, but you can see they're exactly the same. And you can sit 4 figures into it, which is pretty cool because you can actually sit 5 in total, because you can have one guy up on the gunning for the missile launcher, and then you have the 4 people sitting in it. So what I had, if I can dig them out, I had them here earlier. So I have a couple of the mercenary figures, because I think it looks a bit silly if you put the actual characters from Jurassic Park in there, because it doesn't kind of sit with their ideas. They were more scientists than mercenaries. But you can make it look like these guys took one of the Jeeps, modified it, and turned it into a hunting vehicle, which is pretty cool. It does roll quite nicely. And then I'll just put this thing back onto the side. This piece at the top does rotate as well, so it is handy, so you can push it out of the way of the door, and it doesn't get in the way of the door of, well, the door will, you still need to take it off when you're opening the door, but it doesn't get it, you know, flat or squished up against the door. The searchlight is gone as well on the hood, so that has been slightly modified, and obviously this area up here has been modified to have the hinge for this armor piece that folds down over. So overall, it's a really cool set, and there is a dinosaur packed in with this set, so we will get into that as well, which will leave us with just one dinosaur to get through, which is the T-Rex, which is the pièce de resistance of the whole series. So this is the, how do you pronounce it again? Scutosaurus. This is actually, if I remember correctly, it's not a dinosaur per se. I believe it's a early Triassic dinosaur, or early Triassic creature. I think it might be a prehistoric mammal of some kind, or prehistoric reptile. I don't think it falls under the category of dinosaur. I could be wrong. I'm not too familiar with this creature and its paleo history, but it is quite nicely articulated. There does look like there should be tail articulation, but it doesn't really do anything, and the legs just rotate. There's no hinge. I thought originally there was a hinge here, but it doesn't look like there is. It almost looks like it was designed to have a hinge up here. You can almost see where it looks like it was indented. I'm not sure if it's picking it up on the screen, but it almost looks like there would have been a hinge, but then they opted not to. But the neck is actually dual jointed. Again, it is kind of misleading because I thought them out opened. It is a separate piece. The head is actually glued down on top of the lower jaw, so I thought it was an actually articulated jaw, but it would have been cool if it did. But it does have a ball joint and just a ball joint for the neck, so it is quite articulated, and it is quite a nice looking creature, I suppose, as opposed to dinosaur. So it is really nice. And again, just like the others, it does have that scan thing. So if you have the scanning thing, you can do that. So oop, oop, oop. That brings me on to the big boy, or big girl, I should say. So I'm going to move the Jeep out of the way. Oh, there's so much stuff in the way. Right. So here is the T-Rex in all her glory. She has a soft skin that runs the whole course of her body. Her tail has a bit of flex to it. I don't think it's a bendy wire per se, so you don't really get much in the way of movement. There is a split on the belly, and there is a reason for that. Her arms swing out to the side. Her legs are also on those kind of hips. She does have the DNA scan, which unlike the others isn't in a tag that you pull up. It's actually on the left leg, which is quite nice. You just clip it open. Her mouth opens really, really wide, and there is a reason for that. So I'm going to get our little test subject and go chompy chomp on the test subject. I'll get it to do it. And that was probably completely off screen, so let me do that again. Right. Okay, I'm going to have to do it the hard way. Right. So the idea is you have this opening split that she can eat other figures and dinosaurs. I know this looks horrendous on screen. So maybe you can do it with the human figures. You can open them out pretty wide so you can eat the grand figure. I'll just have to get them in a more slidey position. So, yep. And I don't think he wants to jump back out. So let me see if I can do this on screen, because this is quite... Right. You get the general idea. So if you can get 8 figures in to the mouth, you can actually get her to eat small dinosaurs. And you can recreate the scene from Ace Ventura with the rhinoceros with Alan Grant. So they will fit into the mouth. The neck isn't articulated. There is roaring stuff. Her feet does have a swivel, and they are plugged in with those twist things when you do get her. So you have to open the bottom of the box to get her out, and she does have the roar. I think, is it only the one roar? Oh, there's stomping action. And her legs do move, so there is a neutral pose, so it clicks into place, but you can, and they are independent, they're not just, but it does click into place for the main stance. She is quite big. So from tip of nose to tail, she's 22 inches. To the highest point of her body, which would be the ridge of her head, she's about 8. So she's quite a big dinosaur. And as I said, she can eat most small things. Just be careful that things don't get jammed in the neck area. The way it is, there's a solid piece just here behind the head. So if you're trying to poke it back out through the mouth, they will get jammed on that. That's why the piece here is designed that you open it up and that you kind of fiddle around to try and get the figure out. But I would recommend small figures and maybe figures without too many accessories or anything like that. Miles Courage, you can see she can eat that, pop it in, and then it is flexible enough, but it is quite tight as well. So you see, oh, out we go. But like, I would stress figures like Ian Malcom, I would be very wary of, because you could break these glasses that are on him. I've had that happen with my original Legacy figure. The glasses just fell off. So anyone like Dr. Hammond, Ian Malcom, I think the Ray Arnold figure actually has sculpted on glasses, but the, what's his name? Oh, Dennis Nedry. They all have a glass piece that is glued or attached over their heads. Those will more than likely possibly break as you're trying to fiddle with trying to get them out. So be careful of that. So all in all, I hope you enjoy this incredibly long video review of all these dinosaurs. I would showcase other T-Rexes with this, but for time constraints, I'm going to wrap it up here, because this is already a fairly long video and don't want to go too much overboard, and hopefully I've captured your attention for most of this video, or you just skip through all the good parts. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and hopefully see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.